unless you lived under a rock, Don Lemon is going to be possibly facing the FACE Act with a mob of people that busted into a church yesterday. I talked about on the other episodes about the escalation, the history of communist, socialist, fascist attacking the institution of churches.
Don Lemon and his left-wing mob just stormed a Minnesota church to protest ICE. The mob was seen yelling at the people trying to worship, calling them fake believers and forcing the church to stop the service, causing worshipers to flee the building with their children. The large group disrupted the Sunday service at City's Church in St. Paul, where David Easterwood serves as pastor. Easterwood is allegedly also the acting field office director for U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in St. Paul, overseeing enforcement and removal operations across Minnesota and neighboring states. At one point during the disruption, the pastor was trying to calm down his congregation when Don Lemon began to continuously shove a mic in his face as he told him that the mob had a constitutional right to freedom of speech and protest. But storming a house of worship is actually not covered by the Constitution, and the Assistant Attorney General made a statement saying that the protesters will be investigated by the DOJ's Civil Rights Division under the FACE Act.
I totally disagree. Because of what a pastor does for a living or what they're involved in politically gives no one the right. There was a child in that video who was sitting in their father's arms, shaking, confused, trying to figure out what's going on when these people burst into this church. And Lee, what I would say is people have a First Amendment right and the ability to go and protest against ICE. If they don't like ICE, be my guest, go protest. But those people in that church, I would say and, not but, those people in that church absolutely have a First Amendment right to gather and worship the God of their choosing. And I'll say a point here is it is actually Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the day that we recognize his contribution to the country today. His mother in 1974 was shot and killed in a church because of political violence, because the KKK wanted to insert their political will over a community. This is remarkably similar to that. I remember my great-grandfather telling me stories about church bombings in the South. Remarkably similar to that. Everyone at this table should have no...
So the protest is similar to the person getting shot.
Let me finish, please. Everyone at this table, please, should have absolutely no issue saying that this was wrong, it was reprehensible behavior, and this is not the appropriate way that we address our grievances in this country.
So which innocent people are and are not allowed to get shot as far as you're concerned?
That's not what I'm talking about. People have a right in this country, regardless of what your political convictions are, to worship freely and safely, and no one should watch a child on camera like what we saw trembling in their father's arms because of your political convictions. ICE does
to children
and their
families.
Your political convictions do not overstep someone's ability to worship safely and
securely.
No, but
stop making it about Did I call that into question?
I'm sorry, guys. I respect you, but there's no but. There's no but.
And the reason why they have to do that is basically to eliminate the threat of churches and individualism. The FACE Act, Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act of 1994. The key part, the second part, intentionally injuring, intimidating, or interfering with, tempting to injure, intimidate, interfere any person by force, threat of force, or physical obstruction, exercising or seeking to exercise a First Amendment right of religious freedom as a place of religious workplace. It wasn't a friendly protest. They intimidated. There was children crying, people on my X account. Remember, like and subscribe. It helps out the channel. As you can see, my fine setup studio here. It's private property, a religious institution building. It has its own First Amendment protections. As I read FACE Act as well, you have the right and ability to protect or to practice your religion freely. And that includes nut jobs like Don Lemon and his mob yelling at people saying they're not real Christians at a Baptist church. Don Lemon now is freaking out, backpedaling, saying that he's not part of that group, that he is just observing as a reporter. He's not a reporter. He's basically the inquirer for the left. We need to understand the historical context.
Culture, destroying civilization is in the DNA of Marxism, even in classic Marxism. They did that day one. They took over power in China. And that's 1949. In the very beginning, they were giving go ahead to destroy everything that is considered old, the four olds: old ideas, old culture, old habits, and old custom. That means anything that's left in China that's considered old. Statues, temples, churches, and mosques, books, everything. Everything has to be destroyed.
When you talk about what Mao was doing, he was trying to rewire the Chinese people into different kinds of people. He was trying to be God, it seems like to me. Basically, every communist country went to war on religion, including and especially Mao. He called religion the opiate of the masses. Why? From your perspective, why did religion become such a central attack of the communists?
It's all about power. That's why I think it's important you brought up the religion. Why they are all after the religion? Because they want to control people's mind. And so some people say that communism is atheism. I don't think so. The more I really think about what I've been through and read more, it is a religion. It replaced the old religion. It become a new religion, and everything they did is absolutely religious. And in China, and we have a God, that is Mao. And growing up, we have our little Bible, and that is Mao's little red book. And we have a political study, which is our going to church. And we have our confession, which is criticism and self-criticism. So even as little kid, every week we're going to have a political study session. And that session, you're going to confess. You're going to, we will read Mao's little red book, and we will say that I did not do this and this right according to Mao's instruction. And also I saw you did not do this and this right. And then so we criticize each other, and we denounce ourselves, and we swear we're going to do better. And that is that is religion. So what they want is really control people's mind. And to me, that is more dangerous than control what you can eat, where you can be, where you can go. They control people's mind. I never was able to even think.
It might not seem like a lot to a lot of people. I would love Don Lemon or some idiot to try to do that in my church this Sunday. Just saying, it would make my year, even though it just started January 2026. But tyrannical regimes often target religious institutions to eliminate potential sources of opposition, promote ideological conformity, and consolidate state control. USSR, when they were ousting the Tsar and the Leninist movement ideology, the Bolshevik Revolution onward, the regime promoted scientific atheism. The group is more important than the individual. Accountability, your way going to heaven, all those things manifest in the Bible of what are you doing right or wrong. And the individual, not the masses, that communists and Nazis, Nazi Germany regime under Adolf Hitler persecuted religious groups, obviously not just the Jewish population, but Catholics and Orthodox were slaughtered just as much as the Jews, but they weren't talked about with the Holocaust and stuff. But that control, and we have a state religion in Russia, Orthodox religion. China has wavered, gone up and down on control of religious groups and what they can and can't do. A lot of them are underground with Bible studies and things like that. And yes, there's a big step, it seems, between Don Lemon and a group of people busing a church and having churches underground in a basement or a room and in secret. But these slippery slopes happen very quickly. I mean, what is sacred anymore? We understand that the Christian churches are under attack. Catholic churches had over 500 attacks just last year. Not reported, obviously. We need to understand, if you're religious or not, you need to understand that this is a problem. It all leads into more. We talked about the violence, the left getting guns. Second Amendment, completely fine. But it's an escalation of force we need to talk about and we need to think about with historical context. People with guns saying, I'll shoot unalive an ICE agent, federal agent. I'm willing to give up my life for illegals, for Somalis that have stolen over $1 billion from the U.S. people, you and me, citizens. Pay taxes, try to do the right thing, have families, have a job. We can't protest and become radical and go in the streets every day because we have responsibilities. And these leftists aren't mature. They're not sound in mind. They are acting emotionally. They were probably never told no by their parents. They live in a fantasy world of they could do whatever they want without any repercussions. Hence Don Lemon going and busting in a church the other day. These escalations, that's what concerns me. I love history. I don't know where this leads. It just keeps on ramping up. And it just is going to take one event, one Black Swan event. And until I read the Black Swan, the book, I didn't realize it was not a conspiracy or something that was manufactured. It was an event such as, a volcano that decimated a whole area. And in that, dispersed the populations. 9/11. And you take out all the conspiracies and just go into the actual event and how that happened and like what happened after that. Change people's mentality. Obviously, Mandani is in New York, so we forgot about 9/11, but those effects, if somebody has in your family, a spouse has cancer, Black Swan event that changes your family unit and how you go about every day. That's a Black Swan event. That affects things. And so as we go through this, what do you think? I guess this channel is more for venting, obviously, but also seeing if there's any like-minded people out there concerned, 9 to 5, have a family, responsibilities, don't know what to do. As a Marine, like I said before, I did not serve overseas to come over here and lose those freedoms. I have 5 kids. I do not want to leave our country the way it is right now. It's not good. Corruption. And one of the things, and I love your thoughts in the comments, what do you think about the Somali fraud? I talked about no wonder Democrats protected them and opened the borders to millions of people. Not just the votes and bolstering congressional districts or states' population so they have more congressional districts and bloated or more seats than they should have in the House of Representatives. But just the money, the NGOs, the kickbacks, the bureaucrats that are making literally millions of dollars. But Somalis are just one country, one nationality. And it's not, I don't care if they're Swedish or Somalis or English or Mexican. I do not care what they look like. But migrants coming in here, not just assimilate, but take complete and absolute control of our system with welfare and housing and our programs such as the Leering Center. They're finding out that now, following these medical vehicles or transportations for these child care centers or adult working programs, they're driving around getting paid state and federal dollars to transport these people that are of need, and there's no passengers all day for weeks. What do you think? I just think it's scratching the surface at this point, and it's concerning. There's a lot of things that are concerning. Another reason for this channel. There's just too much content, too much to talk about. Love your thoughts. Again, like and subscribe. Having questions, please ask. And God bless. Semper Fi.